governance, and welfare of government employees and pensioners, the achievements in the field of atomic energy sector and space are also tremendous, which need a special mention here. We have with us today Honorable Minister of State, Donor. I have to read out his all the charges. They are quite a bit. But as I am the official spokesman, I must say the correct thing. Independent charge, Minister of State, PMO, Minister of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Atomic Energy and Space, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, to share the initiatives and achievements of the ministry's departments in the last 3 years. I extend a warm welcome. I welcome Shri B.P. Sharma, Secretary DOPT, Shri Ram Muiva, Secretary NEC, Srimati Usha Sharma, Additional Secretary DAR and PG, Srimati Vandana Sharma, Additional Secretary Department of Pension and Pensioners Welfare, Shri Ranajit Kumar, Head of Nuclear Control and Planning Wing, Department of Atomic Energy, Shri Y.V.N. Krishnamurthy, Director, National Remote Sensing Center, Hyderabad. Friends, the way the press conference will go today is something like this. First, there will be very brief presentations from all the departments. There are about 6, but not than 3 to 4 minutes each, followed by release of booklets by the Honorable Minister on the achievements of the initiatives of all his ministries and departments. This will be followed by release of the e-book of DOPT. Then the Honorable Minister will brief you about the initiatives and achievements. After that, we will take some questions. As usual, a gentle request, please follow the points of order and keep your mobile phones on a switch off or silent mode. Now let us start with the presentations first. I will read out the order as we proceed. First, Shri S.N. Pradhan, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Donor, will make his presentation.
I stand to make the presentation on behalf of the Ministry of Development of the Northeastern Region, Donor as it is known. The 3 years of the achievements of the Donor Ministry since 2014. In the last 3 years, the focus of the ministry has been directed towards the infrastructure projects and their early completion and releasing the maximum funds for ongoing projects as against new projects. But the other administrative and the process innovations that have been made, the fund flow has, as you can see, gone progressively more towards the ongoing schemes, and from 61% in 14-15, we have traversed through 15-16, 92% in 16-17. The UCs, the utilization certificates, have been brought down from a mammoth figure of 1,654 crores to now just about 160 crores as on 31st March 2017. The use of ICT has been done apace, and the project portal, which is the flagship scheme, NLCPR scheme of Donor, the project portal has been made for online submission of documents, as well as the UCs, the quarterly progress reports, and even photographs. To strengthen the monitoring mechanism, we have also come out with a My Donor app, which is being developed, and it also facilitates instant geotagging of projects with the help of another sister body that we have, the Northeast Space Application Center in Shillong. The guidelines of the NLCPR scheme have been revised, and they incentivize, to keep it short, they incentivize projects which are taken up under the scheme, and focuses on completion of the ongoing projects. As with the Digital India agenda, we are also pursuing the digitalization of the donor agenda, and e-office has been implemented in entirety, and all payments are also being made digitally. To come to the other administrative aspects, in the second slide, the plenary meeting of the Northeastern Council, NEC, Shillong, was attended by our Honorable Prime Minister, 40 years after the last Prime Minister had attended. For the first time, a roster has been prepared for the touring Honorable Union Ministers to each of the Northeastern states, and they are supposed to spend at least a fortnight each with a view to efficient and effective monitoring. The Ministry of Donor has initiated, it's a work in progress, but at the last stages, the Northeast Venture Fund to encourage entrepreneurship among the Northeast youth. Value addition has also been made. The APJ Abdul Kalam Center for Policy Research and Innovation has been set up with the Abdul Kalam Chair in collaboration with the Indian Institute of Management, Shillong, and to engender and create employment opportunities in the Northeastern region. Initiatives like the commissioning of the Brahmaputra Cracker and Polymer Limited, the Numaligarh Refinery Limited wax unit, approval of the Northeast BPO promotion scheme under Digital India program, and identification of a thematic circuit, tourist circuit for Northeastern region has been done. On the infrastructure side, I'm happy to inform that all meter gauge tracks, it has been decided to convert into broad gauge as far as the NER is concerned by the end of this year. And all Northeast states will be connected by broad gauge. The state capitals will be connected by broad gauge in the next 2 years. Major expansion of railways in NER will be taken up at a cost of around 10,000 crores. And specifically, Arunachal Pradesh and Meghalaya have been put on the rail map, and Agartala in Tripura has been connected with broad gauge. During the last 3 years, NEC has completed almost 460 kilometers of road length and 435 kilometers of pavement, of which most of the road projects are interstate roads, and that is the mandate of NEC to look at the interstate infrastructure. 14 power projects have been completed and 10 new power projects have been taken up by NEC in the Northeastern region. To facilitate transport, 3 interstate truck terminus, ISTT, at Guwahati, Silchar and Dimapur have been completed. A project on preparatory equipment under the management of natural calamities for the state of Nagaland has been funded by NEC, and it has been completed during this period. Also happy to inform that the district sport complex at Ukhrul is in the advanced stage and likely to be completed by July 2017. The Twiral hydroelectric power of 60 megawatt power project in Mizoram is being implemented by NIPCO. It has been approved at a cost of about 914 crores, of which 300 crores have been provided under NLCPR Central by the M-donor. Continue on the infrastructure side, the protection of Majuli Island, which is a unique island in itself from flood and erosion in the river Brahmaputra. The project has been sanctioned at an estimated cost of 207 crores. As we all know now that Sikkim is the singular state which has been declared the organic state of the country and the first ODF state in India. A very major initiative to encourage sports in the Northeast, which is naturally inclined towards sports. The Sports University has been announced by the Honorable PM in Manipur, and it should be a reality soon. The first rail link to Bangladesh, the Akhora-Agartala railway line, will also happen, and the funds have been granted, the initial funds have been granted. It will result in the reduction in distance by almost 1,000 kilometers and will facilitate trade, business, and travel in the Northeast. The first flyover in Agartala city also has been sanctioned, and the inland waterway connectivity with Bangladesh, which actually is the development of the river Barak, which is 121 kilometers in Assam, and in conjunction with Jakiganj, Ashuganj portion, which goes into Bangladesh. This will be initiated within this financial year. Finally, Asia's longest bridge on Brahmaputra, the Dola-Sadia Bridge, which will reduce travel time between Assam and Arunachal by 4 hours, will be opened for public. by the Honorable Prime Minister very soon on the 26th of May. That is the presentation on behalf of the Ministry of Donor. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Pradhan. Now I request Srimati Archana Verma, Joint Secretary, DOPT, to make her presentation.
Good evening, everybody. I will be highlighting the initiatives taken by the Department of Personnel and Training. Next. On the Independence Day in the year 2015, Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi from the ramparts of the Red Fort announced the abolition of interviews for all lower-level posts. Consequent to the announcement, the interviews on 1st January 2016 have been abolished for all Group C, D, and Group B non-gazetted posts in the central government. To reduce the time taken in recruitment process and also to promote efficiency and transparency in examinations conducted by the Staff Selection Commission of India, the traditional optical mark reader has been replaced by computer-based online examination since November 2016. As a measure of reposing trust in the citizens and in our youth, from June 2016, the appointing authorities are issuing provisional appointment letters based on the self-certification of candidates. And for expeditious filling up of vacancies relating to the Divyangjans, a special recruitment drive was launched on 22nd May to fill up the backlog vacancies of Divyangjan, and 83.5% of 15,694 vacancies have been filled up till April 2017. Next. To carry forward the emphasis on e-governance by the Honorable Prime Minister, several e-initiatives have been taken up by the Department for improved human resource management. The e-service book, which contains all the service record of an employee, has been converted from the physical mode to the e-service e-mode in DOPT, and it is being rolled out in other ministries. The online appraisal mechanism, which is called Sparrow, and which was presently being done for the IS officers, has now been extended to 13 cadres. The Employees Online app, a very popular app which I'm sure all of you must be using, has been launched for real-time and HR-related measures. And to streamline the approvals of recruitment rules in DOPT, an online recruitment rule portal called the RRFMS has also been launched. A single-user online platform relating to employees called Supremo has been launched to integrate the erstwhile e-applications of the DOPT. And to expedite the approval of board-level appointments of central public sector employees, an online portal called Solve has been launched for vigilance status of board-level employees of CPSCs. Next. Many citizen-centric initiatives have been taken in the department. In collaboration with the National Center for Good Governance, single-page form initiative has been taken by DOPT in order to make all forms single-page, and NCGG has simplified, as of date, forms of around 10 departments. The RTI online portal, in which RTI queries can be posed online and replied online, now covers 1979 as on 31st March public authorities, and out of around 2,000 public authorities. And for development of a macro perspective and cooperative federalism, and for a citizen-centric attitude, IS officers as a landmark initiatives are now posted first as assistant secretaries in Government of India after completion of their training in the central government. The IS officers of 2013 batch have been posted for the first time. Induction training to state government employees at cutting-edge level has been conducted in 250 districts of 26 states, and more than 21,000 cutting-edge employees in the states have been trained, and the training includes soft skills too. Yoga, adventure, health camps have been organized for the well-being of the central government employees. Next. Various measures for ensuring probity and integrity in governance has also been undertaken by DOPT. The first being that appointments are now to senior positions based on merit and integrity. The All India Service Discipline and Appeal Rules 1969 has now been amended to provide specific timelines for completion of inquiry. And inquiries have now to be concluded within 6 months. The SOLVE, which I have already stated before, which is the acronym for System for Online Vigilance Clearance Inquiries, an online platform for ascertaining the vigilance status in respect of board-level appointees of CPSEs, has been launched on 30th March 2017. An online portal on probity has also been launched for government employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Archana Verma ji. Now I request Mrs. Usha Sharma, Additional Secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, to give her presentation.
Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances mainly deals with 5 major activities. One is the PM's Awards for Excellence in Public Administration. The second is the e-governance initiative, then redressal of public grievances, good governance initiatives, and international exchange and cooperation. Every year on Civil Services Day, which is held on 21st April of the year, the PM awards are being given since the year 2006. Last year we made a paradigm shift in the structure of PM awards, where we included the awards to be given to the districts who implements the priority programs. Whoever has implemented to the best of their capacity was given the PM's award, and the award was conferred by Honorable Prime Minister. So last year 74 such districts had participated in this award journey, and 10 such awards were given on 21st of April. This year the participation was much wider. Out of 708 districts, 599 districts participated, and we received a record number of nominations. The number went up to 2,345. This was the record of sorts. And this year 12 such awards were presented by Honorable Prime Minister on the Civil Services Day. Then we don't end here. We also replicate the best practices which are recognized by Honorable Prime Minister through the awards. And these best practices are then 24 such states. They decided that they need to replicate these identified best practices, and in 271 locations this replication has been completed. Next. Then we also give national awards on e-governance, and these awards are given to reward innovations and the initiatives which give high impact e-governance innovations. So last year this national conference was organized in the month of January in Nagpur, where 10 such awards were given for outstanding work on e-governance. This year, this conference was held in Visakhapatnam, and where 20 such initiatives were recognized and were awarded. And during the conference, some books were also released. These were on excellence in e-governance, then on selected papers, and there were some outstanding background papers which were also publicized. Then some of the best practices are also recognized at the international level. So one such international level is CAPAM, which is Commonwealth Association for Public Administration and Management. So last year the function was organized in Malaysia, and they gave awards in 4 categories, out of which in 3 categories the awards went to our country, and they gave only 1 gold award, and that also went to our country. We have also signed MOUs with UK, which we signed in the month of November in year 2015, and in France with France in the month of January 2016. So as of now, we have 5 such MOUs with 5 countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Usha Sharma ji. I now request Mrs. Vandana Sharma, Additional Secretary, Department of Pension and Pensioners' Welfare, to make a presentation.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. I bring before you the achievements of the Department of Pensions and Pensioners' Welfare with reference to the rules, provisions and guidelines for the benefits that are to be given to the retiring and government servants. Next. The first in this, the recent initiative is with regard to the 7 CPC implementation. The orders for implementation for revision of pension, for payment of pension to people retiring after 1/1/2016 have been issued in time. And the highlights of those orders are that the minimum pension has been enhanced from 3,500 to 9,000. Ceiling gratuity has been increased from 10 to 20 lakhs. And a new slab of death gratuity has been introduced. So far as the people who retired before 1/1/2016, the revision of pension orders have been issued, one in the month of August and the other very recently on 12th of May 2017. The earlier order revision has already been carried out and the next one is in various stages of implementation. Next. As far as the GPF rules are concerned, we have very recently gone through the rules and simplified the provisions for grant of withdrawals and advances so that the government servants can very easily take the advance and the withdrawal for various purposes. The maximum limit for sanction and payment has been laid down, which had not been there till now. And the GPF advance is also now permissible for tour and travel. Next. Pension process has been simplified. As you can see, it was earlier 2 years. It has now been made 1 year. Self-declaration in tune with the priorities of the government has been introduced in the process for service verification and other aspects of pension sanction. Disabled children, siblings, dependent parents can now be co-authorized at the time of retirement so that when the government servant is no more, these disabled children, siblings do not have to run to various offices for a fresh sanction of pension. It is already recorded in the PPO. Death certificate is sufficient to start off a family pension in the case of a retired government servant, in the case of death of a retired government servant. Next. In tune with the analysis of the grievances that we got on pension-related matters, it was observed that the large number of those grievances, 30% in fact, related to incorrect sanction of pension. To rectify that situation, Bhavishya has been introduced as an online pension sanction and tracking system for the various stages of pension sanction. So since it is a computer-driven program, there is least likelihood of any incorrect sanction of pension or revision of pension. This benefits the retiring employees as well as the administrative authorities who can monitor it to make sure that people get their dues in time and they are allowed to exit with dignity. Sankalp is an initiative which prepares the retiring government servants for life after retirement. It gives them various opportunity of leading life of dignity and useful, fruitful existence after retirement. Anubhav likewise is an initiative to permit retiring government servants to share their experience of working with the government and leave behind suggestions which can be used for good governance initiatives in future. In this line of thinking, NPS, the National Pension System beneficiaries have been allowed the extension of benefit of gratuity, which had till now, there was no clarity on how this is to be handled. Next. I think that would be all for the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vandana Sharmaji. Now I request Shri Ranajit Kumar, Head Nuclear Control and Planning Wing, Department of Atomic Energy, to make his presentation.
Good afternoon. I present before you the achievement of the Department of the Atomic Energy during the last 3 years. DAE's program can be attributed to 3 broad categories. One is nuclear power, second is non-power application of nuclear science and technology, and third is mega science and basic sciences program or discovery sciences program. Next. Sorry, okay. Flagship program of the department of the atomic energy is the design, development, construction, operation of the nuclear power plants. Towards this, the department has achieved or added 2,000 megawatt electricity capacity through 2,000 megawatt pressurized water reactors in Kudankulam nuclear power projects. Department also achieved 40,000, the highest ever 40,000 million unit of nuclear power generation. Also, government has taken a bold initiative of construction of 10 indigenous PHWRs, each of 700 megawatt electricity capacity, which will add 7,000 megawatt when completed. This will boost the high-tech manufacturing industry and also a boost for the Make in India initiative. Substantial progress has been made towards the second stage of the nuclear power program. The prototype first bidder reactor in Kalpakkam is expected to be ready by this year itself. Next, please. During these 3 years, department has entered into civil nuclear related cooperation agreement with various countries. Some of them are mentioned here, but most notable during this period is the civil nuclear cooperation with Japan, which was enacted by Prime Minister when he visited Japan in November 2016. Also, the civil nuclear cooperation agreement with Vietnam, and recently in this month itself with Bangladesh. Next. Non-power application of nuclear science and technology has also made considerable stride in this period. Most notable is the setting up of the National Cancer Grid, which connects 108 locations, providing cancer care, also the cancer research institutes, NGOs, and other who are providing certain cancer cares. New hospitals have come up for cancer treatment in Sangrur, in Punjab, and also is expected to come very soon in Mohali and Visakhapatnam, and cancer hospital has been announced for Varanasi. Another notable development is the development of cesium pencil, which has been supplied to 10 hospitals for blood irradiation. Similarly, the department is contributing towards the Clean India program by providing, particularly for the management of the municipal waste, hygienization of the sewage sludge. Similarly, different technologies have been developed for water purifications. And as spin-off, a carbon nanotube-based bulletproof jacket, which is 20% lighter than the commercially available systems, have been developed. Can you go to the next? The department is also involved in the mega science and discovery science projects. And notable achievement during this period is that India became the associate member of the CERN in January this year. Also, Cabinet has approved in principle approval for the LIGO India, Laser Interferometric Gravitational Observatory. This will be set up in Aund in Maharashtra. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ranjit Kumar. Now is the final presentation. Shri YVN Krishnamurthy, Director, National Remote Sensing Center, Hyderabad.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Department of Space, I will make major accomplishments which has been done in the last 3 years. Specifically from the Department of Space, there are 3 major areas. One is on the launch vehicles, space infrastructure, that is the satellites. Third is on the applications. Specifically, the ISRO DOS successfully accomplished 36 missions in the last 3 years, which includes 17 launch vehicle missions, 16 satellite missions, and 3 technology demonstration missions. And the South Asia satellite for international cooperation with KU band has been launched with high power transponders launched for various communication applications over the region. Also the navigation with Indian constellation, the NAVIC, the 5 satellites have been launched to complete the 7 satellite constellation, and it has been successfully established for India. And 3 important technology demonstrations undertaken is the reusable launch vehicle technology demonstration, the scramjet air breathing engine, and a crew module atmospheric re-entry experiment. We also launched, which you are all aware, around 104 satellites in a single mission on board PSLV C-37, of which 101 are foreign satellites. In the last 3 years, there are 145 foreign satellites have been launched by PSLV for 13 countries. Successfully, also we launched a ResourceSat 2A. This is a 3-tier imaging system, which is unique in the world for natural resources monitoring, and also the SCATSat, that is, which gives the wind vectors in the ocean, specifically for advanced cyclone tracking and ocean studies. This is a global satellite. And apart from this, we have also an indigenous capability of launching 2-ton class satellites, which you are aware. So the next generation launch vehicle, GSLV Mark III, is ready for launching 4-ton class of satellites, which will reduce India's foreign dependency on launch. The first developmental flight plan is in the first week of June 2017. The INSAT 3DR, launched in September 2015, provides frequent weather updates. With INSAT 3D and 3DR in orbit, now it is possible to get weather observations in every 15 minutes. That is what is helping us in the weather prediction models very perfectly. The Mars Orbiter mission completed more than 2.5 years in orbit and continues to perform normally, and it has been well acclaimed globally today. AstroSat, the only satellite in the globe, the multi-wavelength observatory in space, completed more than 1.5 years in orbit and continues to provide good data to enhance understanding of universe and astronomical phenomena. And this has motivated the young researchers in space science adequately. The space applications of space program is a bigger turn which has taken. The Honorable Prime Minister himself has chaired a meeting on 7 September 2015 to get all the ministries to use the space applications. So a few of them, which I'll be mentioning here on horticulture assessment and management, and especially the NAREGA, called Geo-NAREGA, by tagging all assets which has been created. Today there are more than 1 crore assets have been tagged. Progress of construction of beneficiary houses under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana housing for all. Monitoring and evaluation of integrated watershed management programs and assessment of solar, wind and wave energy. And inventory of monitoring of village water bodies. This is for the Blue Revolution for inland fisheries. The continuous information is being hosted. The irrigation infrastructure monitoring under AIBP. Disaster management, including forecasting, hazard assessment of floods, track and landfall prediction of cyclones, and monitoring of drought.
Thank you, sir. I now request the Minister to address the media. तो हो गया. सर इधर से
Director General PIB, Mr. Frank Norana, Secretary DOPT, BP Sharma ji, Mrs. Usha Sharma from ARPG, Mrs. Vandana Sharma, Ranjit Kumar, Dr. Krishna Murthy, my colleagues from the different departments that you have heard just now, and yes, of course, the media friends without whom this event wouldn't have been possible, and this is primarily, in fact, meant for them. As you would have realized that this is, broadly speaking, at least 6 ministries, and therefore it was tended to be summarized as far as possible. I will then just like to highlight some of those aspects which might be of interest to you from the other side, because when we make presentations from the department, we sometimes tend to be subjective depending on our own considerations, the manner we have worked, but maybe from your point of view. And also I'll try to make it as brief as possible, because I can't hold Mr. Frank for too long. You can't keep the Director General waiting. He's been here since morning, dealing with different ministers one after the other. But since I have, and I'm also saying so that because we have dealt with all these departments with such a great passion and try to make a difference in our own innovative way, that I can in fact go on and on speaking about 24 hours. But considering that that is not expected of me, so let me just briefly take up one by one. Now, as far as the Ministry of Department of Development of Northeast region is concerned, I think when we started off in this department, what was the main concern for us was that the Northeast had suffered tremendous neglect over the years, which can be, I think, watched from the fact that when I traveled to Shillong, the Northeast Council headquarters, which is a beautiful building over there where Secretary Northeast Council, Mr. Ram Mohiba, sits. I was told that it was after nearly 10 years that a union minister was coming there. And thereafter, we have a plenary meeting of the Northeast Council, which is expected to be held every 3 months or at least once in 6 months. And the last plenary meeting which was attended at Shillong by any Prime Minister was as many as 40 years ago by Shri Morarji Desai, somewhere around 1977-78, around the same time as that Jorhat air accident took place. And it made quite a bit of news because the Prime Minister walked out and walked up to the villagers to tell them to rescue the young boys who had got trapped inside. So we made a request to the Prime Minister, and it was after 40 years that Shri Narendra Modi ji was there on the 27th and 26th of May. And in my welcome address, I said that possibly nature wanted that we have to wait. We should wait till Mr. Modi takes over as Prime Minister. Until then, no other Prime Minister would be visiting here. So that I'm just trying to highlight the kind of paradigm shift that we had to make in order to convince ourselves and convince the people of Northeast that we were actually now placing it at a very high priority. And I'm looking back, I think 2.5, 3 years, I think we have vindicated ourselves to a great extent. Immediately, one of the earliest decisions we took was to have a regular visit of the union ministers, and as was being told, we have a roster now wherein at least 8 ministers visit Northeast every fortnight, which in other words means that every state would have one minister at least from the center visiting every fortnight. Then it occurred to my mind, and we started off with a new experiment of holding a camp secretariat by rotation every month in each of the states. For example, we started with Manipur, then Tripura, then Meghalaya, so on and so forth, because I realized that it's the only ministry in the Government of India which is region-based, and therefore we should send out a message that for the redressal of every grievance, a person living in Northeast need not come to Delhi. Delhi can also travel to his doorstep, and therefore we named it as Donor at Doorstep. And I must confess that I got the cue from a practice which was followed by the Britishers when they had large provinces. They had the undivided Madras state, they had the undivided Bombay state, they had central provinces, and they would then have these camp secretariats. And looking back, because this was a new experiment which was mooted by me, I think we have reasonably succeeded, of course, with the grand cooperation of the officers who had to go through the hardship of being up and about every month. But the people of Northeast today, I can say, feel that we have identified ourselves, we have owned them, we have gone beyond the mandate, because this ministry only deals with development, as the name indicates, development of Northeast region. Donaire, though many of the chief ministers believe that this is donor, so they come asking for money. So I have to convince them it is donaire, it is not donor. But nevertheless, the point now is that when our officers are there in the camp secretariats, or the donor minister is there, he is receiving more attention in the media than many of the local functionaries. So we have virtually owned it and gone beyond our mandate. Statistically speaking, from the point of view of making a news caption out of it, I think one of the hallmarks is that we have managed to hike the budget of Northeast by as much as about 25%. As far as, because if you go precisely, we have 56 non-exempted ministries, which are now providing almost 43,000 crore. We have about 5,500 crore from the railways. We have another, yes, we also started a special road development scheme for the first time in the history of independent India in 70 years, which also has a separate allocation. So in all, we have about 55 to 6,000 crore now earmarked, which was almost 25 to 30% higher than what it was when this government came in. And this road development scheme, which is the first of its kind, also deserves a little mention, because Northeast had given rise to a peculiar nomenclature called orphan roads, which was a new experience for me also, the roads between the two states, because none of the two states would own them, and the roads would remain unattended. And therefore, we have allocated exclusive central funds for that. There were states, ironically, even after nearly 67, 8 years of independence, where people had never seen a train. For example, states like Meghalaya, which has Shillong, and Shillong is the capital of the British state and also the capital of undivided Assam. Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh were never on the rail map of India. Today, not only they are very well connected, but we are going to have an ambitious plan of having a double gauge rail track in the next 2 years in all the 8 states, barring perhaps Sikkim because of the topographic reasons. We are going to have an airport in Itanagar, which was not there. The work at the Gangtok airport had got delayed for years together. The Prime Minister himself took a personal interest, intervened during Pragati meetings, one after the other, and soon we are going to have it functional by this year end. Shillong, as I said, in spite of being the capital of erstwhile Assam, did not have a functional airport. It still doesn't have. The donor ministry has now contributed funds to have a proper airstrip. Because unless we improve the connectivity, the rest of the things will not be able to be put online, whether it is the revenue, the employment generation, or the organic cultivation. And therefore, with the improvement of connectivity, we have tried to also address the other areas, as was being mentioned, the organic state of of Sikkim. And as far as the Startup India program is concerned, because a huge problem in North India is that of youth exodus and the youth employment. And the youth exodus occurs primarily because of the search of higher education and also for the search of livelihood. So Prime Minister gave us a beautiful program, Startup India, which has incredible provisions, like for example, tax holiday. It has a exit period of 3 months, which means that you can opt out. If the child doesn't feel his mind aptitude into it, he can switch over to another business. And wherever I go, I said this is a kind of a scheme which could have been floated by a government, only by such government which thinks of others' children like its own children. If you tend to settle down your son, you put up a workshop for him, his mind doesn't get into it, you do not abandon him, you start a restaurant for him. So it is having spent all your provident fund and all your life saving. To this on behalf of Ministry of Donor, we have tried to add one more incentive, which is that of venture fund. So any youngster from anywhere in the country who wishes to set up an entrepreneurship or establishment in Northeast or has a startup in Northeast will also, in addition, get a venture from the Ministry of Donor, which means that there will be virtually no liability. And if we are successful in the manner we are proceeding, I'm sure day is not far, Northeast will become the favorite destination for youngsters looking for a livelihood, not only in that region, but for all over India. In addition, as has been said, some of the other things happened. For example, in the Ministry of External Affairs, we had that exchange of enclaves between India and Bangladesh, something which should have happened 40 years ago at the time of the birth of Bangladesh, but it was again given to Prime Minister Modi to accomplish it. That has facilitated for us to introduce this construction of rail track from Tripura to Bangladesh, and I'm glad Donor will take the credit of having funded the rail track proximal to the border. Waterways for the first time have been introduced, inner waterways, from Brahmaputra down to Bangladesh. All these things have happened with a lot of innovation, a lot of involvement, because when you are totally involved, then you keep experimenting with ideas. Many of us may not be aware that the cost effectiveness of waterways is almost 4 times lesser compared to the other conventional waterways. If you have to carry a cargo by road or by train, it will cost you 4 times lesser by waterway. And at the same time, this will also provide an alternative means of transport in a region where you have rains, you have landslides, and other blockades. So what I'm trying to say is that we have tried to progress at different levels, and at the same time, it is our considered view that if you have to effectively act east, as is being envisaged by the government, then you have to first act proximally to the east borders. Because if you have to do business trade with Myanmar, with Bangladesh, with Bhutan, you have to grow products which are grown there because of the common lifestyles, common eating habits, common culture. You cannot export groundnut from Maharashtra or Rajmash from Punjab. You have to have something which is grown there. And to that extent, we have tried to also empower our various units and the PSUs which are associated with the donor department, and we have entered into MOUs with the Ministry of Textile. We are also into bamboo industry in a very big way. Very little was known outside that bamboo can be used for furniture only, not only for furniture, for paper manufacturing, even for construction of houses. And I think besides that, because if I go on and on, then I'll go on and on, there are other departments also. I think the biggest achievement to my mind is that when I came into this ministry, and I was, of course, new to Northeast, and even the party never assigned me Northeast, because usually I was working either in Northeastern states or the Southern states, English-speaking states. So I kept asking or trying to gather inputs from wherever I could. Everybody told me, you must try to bring Northeast closer to the rest of India, or so-called mainstream India, which is a misnomer, because whole of India is mainstream, so I don't know why they say so. So the question that occurred to my mind is that why not do something to bring mainstream India closer to Northeast? Because from my frequent visits, I learned that there was so much to learn from Northeast. For example, we have a state called Sikkim, which has a GDP more than 20%. Do we know that? And over here, for an all-India GDP, we are still struggling to achieve a double-digit figure. We have a state, small state, of about 7-8 lakh population called Mizoram, which has a literacy rate of 95%, which is next only to Kerala. And the comparison is unequal for the simple reason that Kerala has a legacy of literacy beginning from the British Raj. Even at 1947, it was the highest literate state, whereas Mizoram was born just about 30 years back. And to that extent, we have started this process of holding destination Northeast and Northeast events all over the country. We have held so in South, in Bengaluru, in Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, of course. It is amazing that Delhi Heart over here near INA came up in the capital city about 20-30 years ago, but you did not have a single stall. And from last year, we started Purvashi Star, and very recently, last week, we have also started an organic product stall. And we have also set up hostels in Bangalore University campus. We have started the construction of the hostel last year, and we are soon going to have a cultural center come a hostel in Delhi, where we would have 75% of these boys and 25% from the others, so that they have a cultural mix. So in a nutshell, it is primarily because of the personal interest taken by the Prime Minister. As in the beginning itself, soon after the government came in, he said, he had made a very beautiful remark कि भारत माता का विकास तभी संभव है जब पूर्व भुजा भी उतनी ही बलवान हो जब जैसे कि दूसरी भुजा. You cannot expect a wholesome growth of India if only the west grows and east is lagged behind. And I'm sure we have tried our best in 3 years and to bring it almost at par. At least now Northeast is being widely discussed all over the country. That itself is much of a difference. Tourism has increased. The tourist operators are now holding events in Delhi because they find takers for it. I'll stop at that because we can talk of Northeast sometime later. Now, as far as the DOPT is concerned, there are 2 or 3 revolutionary steps which are very close to my mind. Soon after the government came in, within 3 months, we did away with a practice which was a part of the colonial legacy of getting your certificates attested by a gazetted officer. I too came from a rural background, and when we used to get into class 10 or 11 and we would be asked to get our certificates attested, we would then wonder what a gazetted officer would look like. हमें लगता था कोई 2 नाक वाला होगा, कोई बड़े मुंह वाला होगा. And for kilometers, miles away, we had a tehsildar sitting. We didn't have a person to even attest. And when I was in class 11, I spent 5 rupees, which somebody else paid, to get a certificate attested. And I am glad that the Prime Minister, identifying with the poorest of the poor, as he had said at the beginning, ये सरकार गरीब को समर्पित है. We did away with that practice. And we also sent out a message that, look here, this is a government which has the capacity to trust the youth of this country. I remember when this announcement was made, one of the media friends asked what would happen if somebody fudges the certificate. I said, then the fault will lie with us. That somewhere we went wrong in educating our child and not making him understand the ramifications of having done so. The second revolutionary step already spoken to you, as Prime Minister himself announced on the ramparts of Red Fort, doing away with the practice of interviews so that everybody has a level playing field. You would recall that whenever an interview call reaches a home, there is an earthquake in the family. किसको कांटेक्ट करना, किसका जैक लगाना, किसका पकड़ना, कौन कैसा. I came across a boy who had to appear for some kind of an exam in HRD, and he had traveled all the way to Ludhiana. And since I've been a researcher I myself and keep gathering inquisitively whatever input available, so I asked him out of my inquisitiveness what he had gone to Ludhiana looking for. And Mr. Frank, he told me that one of the experts whom I am told is coming has a brother who is a doctor in Christian Medical College, Ludhiana. And therefore, I wish if he had known Mr. Frank, because of his Christian connection, he would have come to you also. So that kind of harassment was being caused, and that has been done away with. Even for the qualifying exam, where you have skill tests, for example, you have washermen in government, you have dhobi, you have langri, you have cooks. We'll have a qualifying exam, but no marks. So that is the other thing. Third is single-page form. Also started, we started it on the occasion of the birthday of Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji in 2015. Because all of us, since most of our time has been spent in the opposition, so we had the opportunity of going through all the hardships imposed by the government. So we could use that experience. You also would share with me that such voluminous forms are now available, 20 pages, 30 pages. Even parents send their children to call centers to get their forms filled for engineering, for medical, because the parents can't. You might be a professor, but you need a call center to fill the form. So we have tried to simplify it. Let it be a single-page form. Single page means a minimum information, maybe 1 or 2 pages, but it will be non-repetitive. It will be only related to the information required. I sat with Mr. Kothari, the first form we did together, that was the pension form. And what do you require in pension, we realize? The name of the person, the date of superannuation, his last pay scale, which would determine his pension, his bank account where the pension should go, and the nominee, if he doesn't survive, whom it should go. It doesn't make any difference whether you are married or not married. So we scribed out all those forms. They were married, not married. I asked them, suppose a person writes married 4 times, will he get a 4-time pension? No. So what is the relevance? So we were carrying on just because it was there. Similarly, in passport form, you have 3 sets of form. We will eventually also try to simplify that, because I'm telling you, with the kind of spirit this government has tried to work, there's a passion behind it, the spirit behind it, because we try to identify with the commonest of the common. You have 3 sets of form, 3 colors. Maybe that time it was required. One goes to one section, other goes to other section, third goes to third section. Now you have everything on the net. So why do you need to have? And every third page, they ask you for parentage, as if the father changes on the third page. So that is third. In DOPT, we have tried to be quite revolutionary, path-breaking, and living up to the spirit of ease of governance and maximum governance. Of course, under the guidance of Mr. Sharma and his team, number of other simplifications have made to provide a work-friendly environment to the officer. The LTC has been simplified, the transfer policy has been streamlined, the prosecution against officers will also require to be done under a given timeline and after due permission, etc., etc. And of course, yoga and other things which Archana said are meant, because when we are expecting you to work for 14 hours, we expect you to do your yoga there itself and be prepared for the next day. So now, as far as, because then I try to be brief, as far as ARPG is concerned, I think what is important from the point of view of ARPG is that this was a department which was very little discussed in the government circles. But if you see otherwise, and if you see the private circle, the corporate circle, this is the most important department in any organization. This is the R&D wing of an organization. It is where you evolve reforms and you constantly experiment, research, innovate, and then come out with reforms or come out with certain dictums which are there for others to be followed. And to that extent, as Mrs. Sharma was saying, we had a practice of holding Prime Minister's Excellence Awards, where usually the award was based on the individual performance. We've given a wide-based, all the districts have been involved. Out of 708 districts of the country, this year we had participation of 599, and the entries were 2,300 or more. And just before, 3 or 4 days before the Civil Services Day, during a briefing, the Honorable Prime Minister just dropped a cue, could we also involve more number of youngsters for their inputs. This was a very challenging job. We didn't know whether we could do it, but we set out to do it. And can you imagine, we identified 3 batches, 14, 15, and 16. And we set up a portal. And within 2-3 days, we realized that these boys had shown so much of enthusiasm that they had spent as much as 20,000 hours. I asked Mrs. Sharma, are they doing their office work also or only on the portal? But that is the kind. So what is important is that this government has initiated campaigns which have become Jan campaigns, whether it was Jan Dhan Yojana, though that's not my department, but I'm just talking. We started off a queue and it was lapped up by the target population. Similarly, in ARPG, the Anubhav she was talking about, which was sometimes practiced by the Britishers for other reasons because they wanted to carry on with the writ of empire, but here it serves as a research input. Every retiring officer in the last 6 months gives an account, and some of them are highly enlightening. For example, one of those ladies wrote, which I have narrated about 100 times across the country, that she was very keen to do something in tourism, and when there were only 3 years left when she could actually manage a PhD, and when she came back, by that time she had been transferred to another department, which is often happening in government circles. So the next 2 years she spent trying to get back to tourism, and by that time she was superannuated. So this also helps us to do the course correction. These are some of the things that we have done, and of course the practice of going back to your first posting after 30 years, which was again suggested by the Honorable Prime Minister. So ARPG is now laying down forms and reforms which are there to transform. As far as pensions is concerned, Mrs. Usha Sharma has narrated to you where I came in. I think one thing which was weighed on my mind, because as I said, the advantage of not being in government for most of your life is that you know the constraints which are imposed on you through the government. You had the practice of making your elder reach a bank every year with a certificate or a medical certificate just to prove that you are alive. So I said, what is this practice? After 70 years, you have to prove that you are alive. Death ka to theek hai, because when the person, I worked in the medical institute for so long, the moment the patient dies, they say sare certificate le lena, death certificate zarur lena, because then insurance and other claims. So the relatives are more concerned about the death certificate of the person than the dead body sometimes, because that has a long term benefit. But here you have to produce the life certificate. So without doing away with it, because of course the banking institutions have their own constraints and they need to have a proof, we have also introduced the biometric facility. So now you can also, without offering yourself personally, through the biometrics, because we have all the high-tech methods. And we started also the counseling, as she said, Sankalp, because one of the challenges which India is facing, which is not being very visibly realized now, but very soon I think we'll be face to face with it. On the one hand, we have 60 to 65% of population which is below the age of 40 years. On the other hand, though we say it is young India, but it is only half truth. On the other hand, we have an increasing number of population of above 60. Because the life expectancy has increased, the standards of health have increased. So you are virtually superannuating people when they are at the prime of their expertise, prime of their experience, and also in a reasonably good health to carry on. So what happens? Either they go waste or they become a nuisance. They would file an RTI or they lodge a protest. So we have tried to channelize them, try to involve them in the field where they have the expertise. Again, as far as RTI is concerned, the honesty and commitment of the government for transparency and for citizen centricity is evident from the fact that for the first time, though this has not been said in any of the presentations, for the first time in this government, in these 3 years, we have all the 10 vacancies of information commissions filled up, which was never happened in the last 10 years of the history of RTI ever since it came in 2005. There have been occasions when you had only 3 or 4 ICs. I don't know what was the reason. Somebody may even insinuate that only 3 or 4 ICs which suited the then government were posted. We have all the 10 ICs in place so that the work pendency is reduced and we have an absolute transparency. Our grievance cell also, which is being dealt by ARPG, is now recording 100% disposal. And every Friday we are calculating it. Not only that, we have started a practice of personally telephoning them, some of the complainants at random, to assess their level of satisfaction. Through the media, I would once again, as I've said earlier, also try to pass on an appeal that the media grievance disposal does not mean redressal of your aspiration. Now, for example, you may file a grievance that I deserve to be the editor of my newspaper because I am wiser and more intelligent than my editor. And you may be right. And I may also agree. But as someone managing grievance cell, what is expected of me? I have to ensure that within 1 week I'll get you the answer. And we are doing so. We have found a timeline. So I'll carry your grievance to your management, to the proprietor, and say your editor needs to be replaced by this gentleman. And your proprietor will then give me an answer. No, for these reasons, I cannot. And I'll pass on that to you. So that is my disposal. My job is over there. But what is happening is that social media is sometimes being misused by these youngsters. My grievance not disposed of, because they think the person in the grievance cell has the authority to give you a promotion. So that is something, because when we proceed with these reforms at such a fast pace, we also expect the awareness, the mass awareness also to rise to certain threshold level. If that doesn't happen, then the results go waste. Once somebody asked Ustad Akbar Ali Khan, कि आपके जो कॉन्सर्ट है बहुत थोड़े लोग आते हैं. You know what he said? He said, हम भी यही चाहते हैं कि ऐसे आए कि आधे रास्ते तक हम चले और आधे रास्ते तक वो जाए. What do we need to have? An audience who was not receptive. So therefore, what I am trying to say that we are doing all these reforms and all these innovations with such a great passion. We would require the help of media friends to create the compatible mass awareness. As far as space is concerned, I don't have to say, our Mangalyaan pictures are now being used by NASA. We have a South Asia satellite now, which is now feeding all the neighboring countries. We are virtually in the front line of space technology today. And one thing which was missed out in the presentation is that we will soon have Chandrayaan as well. Is that right? That will be Chandrayaan 2. That's right. And Chandrayaan 1, the peculiarity was that it was India which for the first time told the world that there could be a semblance of life on the surface of moon, because Chandrayaan-1, our earlier mission, discovered the presence of water, so indirectly H2O, because it has oxygen component. So what I'm trying to say is that our inputs are now being used by the rest of the world, and our technology and accomplishment is 100% indigenous. That is why the other day I said, as far as the Prime Minister's Make in India mission is concerned, our space technology is the most distinguished and glaring example of Make in India. Our Mangalyaan, winging from nut bolt to the scientists, is purely Indian. You can see them. So it is totally indigenous and cost effective, 7 rupees per kilometer, less than the cost of your motorbike. That is the cost of the, I'm sure I'm right with the figures because we have the scientists there. And our atomic energy. Ranjit Kumar gave you the resume. I think what is most important from your point of view and what we have to highlight is that it is in these 3 years the present government which took out the nuclear program from the confines of 3-4 states and gave it a pan-India shape. Earlier it was confined to a few states like Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. In North India you hardly knew. When we were children, you would just hear that there was something happening somewhere in some remote corner. Like in space, you would hear there was something happening in Sriharikota. For the first time, last 2 years, we have started a nuclear installation at a place which is not very far from Delhi called Gorakhpur in Haryana. This has happened only in 3 years. I'm only talking about the last 2 or 3 years. We have started also exploring other venues, other locations, including in Northeast in Meghalaya. And as was being mentioned, the 10 reactors. Very soon, we would be having atomic energy as a major source of energy to meet India's increasing requirements. And I always say that will be the most befitting tribute to the founding fathers, Homi Bhabha and others, because when Homi Bhabha founded this Bhabha Research Center in 1955-56, he said, we are going to do it for peaceful purposes. And nobody believed him. He was mocked. Mocked, you know why? Because 7-8 years earlier, Nagasaki had happened. The word atomic had become an abuse. It was being heard with contempt, and nobody could believe. Everybody thought that they were going to produce an atomic bomb. But Bhabha said that, and today we are into it. Very soon, our energy needs like clean energy will be met through nuclear energy at cost-effective rate. Haryana plant will provide energy at the rate of, I think, 6 rupees per unit or so. That's about all. And same way, the most, as far as the space is concerned, this government's unique contribution is that we have brought out space technology from the confines of launching rockets and made it applicable in each household. Your smart city program in this government is going to depend hugely on the space technology. All your surveys, we have made it more transparent. On the one hand, you have Manrega, as he said. On the other hand, you have DBT, direct benefit transfer. And you see, when you hold multiple departments, you have the advantage of using one experience and the other. So when I came to Doner, I realized that a lot of problems are happening in DPRs and UCs. Sometimes the UC came with a photograph of a bridge which never existed, or a bridge somewhere and UC from somewhere. So it occurred to me, because I had come from space, I knew there was a center in Shillong. We immediately brought in the services from Shillong, and now we have that practice of having UCs through space, which is cost effective, which is real time, and which is absolutely transparent. So we can go on and on, but then I would like to have your inputs and we will respond to that accordingly. This was just a brief of these 6-7 departments, primarily focusing on the last 2 or 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now the floor is open for questions. Oh, no. Yeah, you have a question? Right. I thought the briefing was so comprehensive that... Yeah.
Deepak Diwan from Northeast Sun. So this Akhura line, Agartala to Akhura in Bangladesh, which is being funded by donor ministry. Can you tell us more about this from Akhura, where all it will have links further?
I will not be able to give you the alignment offhand, but as far as the funding is concerned, the donor will be funding up to the India-Bangladesh border. the funding of the track beyond that would be done by the Ministry of External Affairs. The project is being undertaken by the Ministry of Railways. We could have also done it on our own, but I am glad that we have some share in doing so, that once the train to Bangladesh starts running, we can also take credit that we also contributed. And if you want exact figures, we have 580 crore project is the total cost, and out of which we have already contributed 160 crore for this part. And one thing which was being said while presentation was being made about Northeast region, I know how much it got registered, was the Majuli Island, which is also the constituency of the Chief Minister, is also now being developed as a heritage island, and we have contributed over 200 crores. Of course, with the Ministry of Water Resources, we will be doing that. In addition, as I said, we have gone beyond the mandate because you are covering Northeast in a big way. We have also gone into those areas which were not mandated to us. For example, in the medical field, only on the 30th of this month, we are going to have a conference of the health ministries. We have introduced RDR Cancer Institute into, which is a premier institute like Tata Institute in Chennai for Northeast, because it has a huge prevalence of cancers. So they are now going to provide cancer. They are already started providing cancer training to doctors from Northeast. 2 doctors from each state we have, 1 surgeon, 1 physician for 6 months training. And the Barua Cancer Institute, as I said, the advantage of having multiple departments, I got it connected with the Tata Memorial Institute, because the Tata Memorial Institute is under Department of Atomic Energy. So the advantage we got out of that is that the Tata Memorial faculty will be visiting the Barua Cancer Institute, and in Bhava Atomic Center, in the Atomic Energy Department, we have an institute called Bhava National Institute, which is a deemed institute. So I got this Barua Hospital in Guwahati connected with that. Now this has become a deemed, and we have started super specialty MCH course in cancer surgery. This year we will start cancer medicine. So what I am trying to say is that we have also tried to transfer the benefits of other departments to Northeast.
Yeah, Bharti ji.
Sir, my question is about Lokpal and Lokayukta Act. Although we have the legislation and certain amendments are being talked about, the process has gone on forever. When do we see a finality happening on having a Lokpal in place?
Yeah, where is Bagla, Mr. Bagla? Pallav Bagla?
He's just gone.
Okay. Because I thought he would, because he knows science more than many of our scientists. So, in fact, it's always a learning experience. No, I know, Bharti, you would ask this because this is what is going to make news. So, all this now washed out. But now, nevertheless, as long as you make news for us, it is always welcome. Of course, बीच में लिख देंगे कि करते करते ये हुआ during this. So this will also indirectly cover this event. But yes, see, a lot of this misconceptions and misgivings have been going around as far as the Lokpal is concerned. See, the bill was brought in, and then it was referred to this standing committee. And it was referred to the standing committee on the demand and the suggestion of the members from all the parties, and more so from the opposition parties. And therefore, in reverence to the sense of the House and the spirit of the Parliament, it was referred, and once now it's come back, it is now in the consideration, and it will be moved forward.
Yes.
हाँ, मंत्री जी, हमारा आपसे सवाल है कि आपके पास नॉर्थ ईस्ट के डेवलपमेंट का डिपार्टमेंट है. नॉर्थ ईस्ट इतनी खूबसूरत जगह है जो आप बता रहे थे, तो नॉर्थ ईस्ट में टूरिज्म को बढ़ावा देने के लिए और वहाँ जाने के लिए जब तक प्राइस कुछ सस्ती नहीं होगी और पैकेजेस नहीं होंगे, नॉर्थ ईस्ट के डेवलपमेंट के लिए क्या प्रोग्राम आपने बनाया?
नहीं, बहुत बढ़िया बात की आपने. और कई बार ये अचंभा भी होता है सोच करके कि इतनी खूबसूरत वहाँ का दृश्य भी है और वर्सेटिलिटी भी है, उसके बावजूद क्यों नहीं पर्यटक जाते. और ये भी प्रश्न उठना चाहिए कि वहाँ पर कभी फिल्म यूनिट्स क्यों नहीं जाती. लेकिन मैं आपको ये बात कहूँगा और तर्क के साथ कहूँगा कि पिछले 2 वर्षों में कितना प्रयास किया गया. इस विभाग में आते ही हमने वित्त मंत्री जी के आगे एक निवेदन रखा कि जब मैंने ये जानने की कोशिश की कि वहाँ फिल्म शूटिंग क्यों नहीं होती, तो उन्होंने कहा कि हमें इक्विपमेंट रखने का कोई इस प्रकार का उपयुक्त स्थान नहीं है, क्योंकि कनेक्टिविटी इत्यादि की वहाँ पे दुविधाएं हैं। तो हमने कहा कि एक फिल्म स्टूडियो बन जाए। लेकिन वित्त मंत्री जी इतने मेहरबान थे जेटली साहब कि उन्होंने फिल्म इंस्टीट्यूट घोषित कर दिया, और अब जल्द ही अरुणाचल में फिल्म एंड टेलीविजन इंस्टीट्यूट बनेगा, लगभग उसी तर्ज पर जिस तरह के पुणे में है। इसके अतिरिक्त पर्यटन का काम तभी बढ़ सकता है जब कनेक्टिविटी हो। इंट्रा रीजनल कनेक्टिविटी इन नॉर्थ ईस्ट हैज़ बीन वर्स देन इंटर रीजनल कनेक्टिविटी। आप गुवाहाटी से जयपुर जा सकते हैं, बेंगलोर जा सकते हैं, दिल्ली आ सकते हैं, कलकत्ता बार बार सुबह शाम जा सकते हैं, 10 फ्लाइटें, लेकिन वहाँ से डिब्रूगढ़ नहीं जा सकते, भले ही एक ही रियासत है। और उसके लिए हमने कुछ हेलीकॉप्टर सर्विसेज की योजनाएं आरंभ की हैं, ताकि जब तक हमारे एयरपोर्ट्स डेवलप नहीं होते, जैसे मैंने कहा ईटानगर में लैंड एक्वायर हो गया, काम शुरू हो रहा है, सिक्किम में जल्दी तैयार हो जाएगा, शिलोंग का हमने अपग्रेडेशन शुरू कर दिया, लेकिन तब तक चॉपर सर्विसेज, बिकॉज गुवाहाटी कैन बिकम अ हब। और इसके अतिरिक्त, हालांकि मैंने जैसे कहा कि आप तो खुद भी बड़े अदबी इंसान हैं, कि वो शायर ने कहा मैंने जज्बात निभाए असूलों की जगह, जो मेरा काम नहीं था वो भी किया। बार बार हम टूरिस्ट ऑपरेटर्स के साथ बैठे, परसों भी सारी शाम गुजारी हमने, वो एक शुरू हुआ है IQ, इंडिया IQ, कोई टूरिस्ट एक नया आंध्रा वालों ने शुरू किया, क्योंकि किस प्रकार से इसमें इजाफा किया जाए। और उसमें एक बात और ये है कि हमने होम टूरिज़्म भी वहाँ शुरू किया, क्योंकि मुझे लगा कि क्या होता है कि जैसे टूरिस्ट सीज़न में होटल का किराया बहुत बढ़ जाता है, जिस होटल में कमरा 5,000 का होना चाहिए 15,000 का हो जाता है। तो हमने खुद बच्चों को बिठा करके कहा कि बेटा आपकी रोज़गार का भी साधन बन जाएगा, होम टूरिज्म शुरू करो। और मुझे व्यक्तिगत तसल्ली इतनी हुई, शिलांग में हम गए, एक बच्चे को हमने ये सलाह दी थी, बाद में मैं गया तो मैंने कहा क्या चल रहा है, बोले साहब बहुत बढ़िया सर, आपने इतनी अच्छी सलाह दी। मैंने कहा क्या हुआ? बोले ऊपर 4 अंग्रेज़ रखे हुए हैं, 20,000 रोज़ का मुझे मिलता है। तो मैं कहा करते क्या हो? कहता सुबह ऑमलेट बनाता हूँ, रात को मटन देता हूँ, और 20,000। तो बच्चों के लिए भी एक रोज़गार का साधन बना। तो निश्चय ही पिछले 2 वर्षों में विजिबल डिफरेंस हैज़ बीन सीन। एंड एज आई सेड कि ये इसमें और ज़्यादा बढ़ावा तभी होगा जब कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ेगी और जब बाकी वहाँ पर प्रावधान ज़्यादा बेहतर होंगे। बट वी आर वर्किंग ऑन इट।
Saubhadra.
Shobhadra from Hindustan Times. I want to ask you a little different question about, the last 4-5 months, we have been hearing 2 issues from the government. One is the use of Aadhaar and the other is the cashless. In the schemes which you are rolling out, or the processes which is undertaken by your ministries, not only Donier but the DOPT, how are you using the Aadhaar and the cashless and the push for cashless? Would you like to explain that?
No, using it where?
How are you using Aadhaar in your schemes, in rolling out your schemes, and the use of Aadhaar and cashless economy in your schemes?
In my schemes in Northeast or otherwise?
Otherwise.
No, otherwise we are using. We are absolutely now. In fact, as far as the going over to the paperless working is concerned, I think Donor Ministry was the first to switch over to total e-filing. So that is one thing. But yes, what the question that you should have asked, now I'll put it in your mouth and then you ask me. No, I'll tell you a very relevant question which will make news. See, you should ask me, how are you going to use these in Northeast? That's a very relevant question because... I'll tell you. Northeast is relevant because I agree with you. Like, for example, GST is one of the most path-breaking initiatives of this government, which requires internet facilities. So we still have problems of internet connectivity. And this has been taken very seriously by the government. Very recently, we had Mr. Hasmukh Hadia visiting Northeast to study all these aspects. So we are laying down this optic fabric in a very big way. And the Telecommunication Ministry has been very cooperative. They are focusing on Northeast so that we could have this good optic connectivity in order to facilitate all these other schemes as you are mentioning, which is, of course, this is one of the prerequisites. Certainly this work is going on. Because, you see, as I said earlier, we didn't even have the train connectivity. So all these things have been given. Yes, and other ministries, yes, we were talking about RTI. Yes, the RTI has been made online now, totally. So you can, earlier you had to go during the office hours and visit there and then deposit a fee, etc., whatever. Now even sitting at home in your bed, you can use from your mobile also, app. Even if you are abroad, but you wish to file an RTI, you can do that anytime, anywhere from a mobile.
Yes. Yes, Rahul.
Dr. Singh, since there were 4 or 5 presentations, one I would like to add to what Bharti asked, that yours is a government which has moved on reform process very fast. You have expedited almost everything, and there have been too many reforms. But on Lokayukta, should we say that the minister refused to give a firm commitment when the bill will be moved? One. I'll have 2 more questions because there were 5 presentations. The other is that when the 6th pay commission was awarded, at that time there were several recommendations that there will be, the government will, machinery will be made lean, mean machine. There will be reduction in the number of government jobs. 7th pay commission did something else. Third question is that 3 years in power, when Mr. Modi came to power, he had promised a clean bureaucracy. In the last 3 years, how many black sheep have you identified, and what kind of action has been initiated?
No, as far as the first question is concerned, as far as Lokpal is concerned, there has been no delay absolutely, and please put it on record. As far as the government is concerned, we are absolutely committed to provide a transparent governance, citizen-centric governance, and zero tolerance towards corruption. And as I said, if the Lokpal required certain amendments, it required because the earlier Lokpal had been done in haste. It had some inherent problems which did not make it absolutely workable. Like, for example, at that point in time, one of the members of the select committee had to be the leader of the opposition. Now you tell me in the 16th Lok Sabha you didn't have a leader of the opposition recognized. So what do? We try to bring an amendment wherein we only facilitated the participation of opposition by saying that let the leader of the largest party be the member instead. And this is of course what the Supreme Court also has now, just a few days back, upheld. So we had to bring an amendment. Like, for example, there was a jurist member, whose term had not been defined. So what is it? If a jurist appointed once would be there for lifetime, or what? So the number of these technical and logistic pitfalls were there for which an amendment was important and had to be brought in. And it was brought in, but soon after, it was on the sense of the House, and more so on the demand of the opposition parties, that it was sent to the standing committee, so that the government doesn't invite the accusation of trying to delay it. It was primarily on the demand of the opposition parties, or you can put it the unanimous demand of the House. It was sent to a standing committee. They, in all their wisdom, studied it and have now sent it back. And then a team of ministers was constituted, which is now working on it, and soon it will be moved forward. That's about all. Now, as far as your jobs is concerned, I agree with you. I think for any responsible government in today's time, the focus should not be on employment, but should be on employability, and to create conditions or the capacity building so that a youth is able to be in a position to earn his livelihood. And in the last 2-3 years, because we are carrying a baggage of 67 years, so सारे पापों का प्रायश्चित थोड़े समय में करना मुश्किल है, but we have redeemed quite a bit. All these programs, one after the other. And I tell you, I was saying this other day, that was a public function, I said when Prime Minister said ये सरकार गरीब को समर्पित है, soon after taking our government, तो मुझे मालूम नहीं कितने लोगों को ये बात का विश्वास हुआ भी है तो याद भी हो रहा होगा नहीं, because there was so much of cynicism at that time in the country कि नेता आते हैं, बात करते हैं, जनता सुनती है, बाद में दोनों भूल जाते हैं. But looking back, this is exactly we have done. Whether it is Startup India, whether it is Mudra, this is the government which set up an exclusive ministry for skill development for the first time in 70 years. So the entire focus has been on empowerment or capacity building of the youth, so that he could be, and also of the poor. And rightly so, because this is now a country with 65% of the youth population. But I agree with you that the results would take time to come. But we are moving in the direction that we have envisaged for ourselves. We are progressively moving. We have not stopped moving even a single day. And we are moving, also trying to move with timelines. The Prime Minister himself doing a very close monitoring and follow-up of each of these programs.
So my question is not related to your ministries, but since you're a member of parliament from the state of Jammu and Kashmir, you must be aware about Major Gogoi.
Rahul, about the officers that you asked, because that will give you some figures for the news item. So, because I have been with the media cell for quite many years. So, 24415 Group A officers, 24,415. And 42,521 Group B officers, their records were reviewed, are under constant review. So, wherever any misgiving or apprehension was found or any adverse input was obtained. And the figures for those who have been retired in the recent months, or maybe 1 year, just 1 year. It was there in the newspapers also. 30 of them were Group A officers and 99 Group B officers. So 30 Group A officers and 99 Group B officers have been sent on retirement under the Rule 56(J) in the last few months or within a year. And the cases of 24,415 Group A and 42,521 Group B officers are under review for similar reasons.
Madam, if you can restrict the question to today's subject.
Sir, I wanted to ask about Major Gogoi, because the opposition is saying that awarding him is going to provoke the situation and is going to complicate the situation further. That's what leaders across the as far as the opposition is concerned, most of the leaders are saying. What is your view on that? Do you think it's going to provoke the situation? Going to provoke Kashmiris?
I have already answered this. In fact, when the news broke out last evening, I said my first thought is that this is a huge, huge vindication for every patriotic Indian. B, this is a redemption for all of us, because for quite some time now, an atmosphere of fear was being sought to be built, as if certain perverted apologists carry the day through anti-India baiting. And secondly, this is because the nation is eternally indebted to Indian Army. I think this is our way of showing our reverence and acknowledgement to Army's professional rectitude, professional commitment, professional astuteness. And since I am also dealing with donor, may I add to that ever since the news broke out in the evening yesterday, I have been receiving a series of phone calls from Northeast, from Assam, where the major came from. They have taken so much pride that one of them, the son of the soil, has done India pride. अनुवाद मैं करूँगा. अरे वो बहुत आगे चला जाएगा, फिर प्रैंक साहब इसकी इजाज़त नहीं देंगे. वो नॉर्थ ईस्ट से कनेक्टेड था ना, इतना तक लेंगे. कोई वॉज फ्रॉम असम, अदरवाइज वो हिंदी में इसी का अनुवाद. नहीं, सबसे पहले तो मैं ये कहूँगा कि देश के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा ये सौभाग्य भी है और गौरव की बात है, और विशेषकर एक ऐसे समय में जहाँ पर एक ऐसा वातावरण निर्माणित करने का प्रयास हो रहा था कुछ तत्वों के माध्यम से कि मानो लगे कि जो बुलंदी से भारत को गाली देता है उसी की चर्चा होती है, और कहीं ना कहीं भारत के प्रति और देशभक्ति के प्रति आस्था रखने वाले लोगों को कहीं ना कहीं निराशा का सामना करना पड़ रहा था. ऐसे अवसर पर इस तरह की घोषणा होने से हमारा गौरव, हमारा स्वाभिमान में वृद्धि हुई है, और भारतीय सेना के प्रति हम सदा ऋणी हैं. विश्व की सर्वश्रेष्ठ सेनाओं में से एक है, और जिस प्रकार से मेजर गौरव को सम्मानित करने का काम हुआ है, इसके माध्यम से भारतीय सेना के प्रति हमारा आभार प्रकट करने का भी एक छोटा सा, एक विनम्र सा प्रयास है. और विशेषकर चूँकि पूर्वोत्तर के मंत्रालय से मेरा संबंध है, मैं ये भी जोड़ दूं कि जब से इस सम्मान की घोषणा हुई और जानकारी प्राप्त हुई है कल सायंकाल से, इनके प्रदेश में और इनके गांव में इतने हर्ष और गौरव का माहौल है. उन्हें लगता है कि हमारे में से ही एक युवा ने जाकर के सारे देश का आदर मान बढ़ाया है.
Yes, Sama.
Sir, two questions. One, as you claim that there has been no delay by the government in the Lokpal legislation, but as the thing is that it's been pending with the GUM already for almost 6 to 7 months. So, can you give us a commitment that will be definitely be introduced in the upcoming monsoon session of Parliament?
See, as I said, there was no delay on account of any other consideration or any extraneous consideration. It was a part of the process in which it went through, because it had to go to the standing committee. Then standing committee, you cannot ask them to do haste with it. Then it had to come. Then if it is come with a team of ministers, they also need adequate time to study and give their observations. And then, of course, once it is now almost, it has gone through that process, we would have to bring in a cabinet note, and then in the next session, if the session works, that also has been one of the impediments, because some of the sessions got washed out, which also, as a result of which, some other of our bills from DOPT also became victim, like whistleblower bill or Prevention of Corruption Amendment Act. Because if the House doesn't work, that also is beyond our capacity. So, as far as we are concerned, we have no hesitation to come forward with it. We are absolutely committed.
The Prevention of Corruption Amendment Act that you said, the former Coal Secretary has been convicted this week for under 13(1)(d), a provision you want to scrap in the Prevention of Corruption Amendment Act. Now, there is a lot of concern amongst the bureaucrats that the government has not acted on it for almost 4 years. The bill is there.
We don't wish to scrap. It is only that the sanction of prosecution will be available to everybody. No, 31 indeed deleted, but that does not mean that he will not be prosecuted. So 31D deletion would not mean that the prosecution would not happen. Yes, that is why I said we are trying to, while being zero tolerant towards terrorism, we will also give adequate protection to the performing officers. So that is why the timeline for prosecution also failed. So the permission might have been given, but whatever happened subsequently is by the investigating agency, in this case the CBI. So government has nothing to do with that.
Yes.
सर आप नॉर्थ ईस्ट की तरक्की और विकास की बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन हाल की घटनाएं हमने देखी हैं प्रदेशों में, जब नॉर्थ ईस्ट के युवा अपने दूसरे प्रदेशों में सपनों को पंख देने के लिए गए हैं, उन पर हमले हुए हैं, नस्ली अटैक हुए हैं, कई बड़ी घटनाएं हुई हैं और काफ़ी चर्चित भी रही हैं। बात करें राज्य सरकारों का विषय है सुरक्षा का, लेकिन केंद्र सरकार मौन दिखी है, इस पर जवाबदेही उसकी बनती है।
वैसे एक तरह से देखा जाए तो मैं इस सवाल से बचकर निकल भी सकता हूँ, क्योंकि ये गृह मंत्रालय से संबंधित है, परंतु नहीं बचेंगे, क्योंकि जब हमने स्पष्ट मन से और प्रतिस्पर्धा से काम करना है और प्रतिबद्धता से, यही मैंने आरंभ में कहा था कि अक्सर ये कहा जाता था कि क्यों ना पूर्वोत्तर को शेष भारत के समीप लाया जाए, नज़दीक लाया जाए। हमने ये प्रयास किया कि शेष भारत को पूर्वोत्तर के नज़दीक लाया जाए, और जैसे जैसे ये प्रक्रिया आगे बढ़ेगी हमें एक दूसरे में समानताएं नज़र आएंगी, एक दूसरे के प्रति सम्मान बढ़ेगा और एक दूसरे के से सीखने के लिए भी हम प्रेरित होंगे। क्योंकि जब ये फासला बढ़ जाता है तो इस प्रकार की बातें, घटनाएं होती हैं। मुझे लगता है कि पहले और अब का उसमें काफ़ी अंतर भी पड़ गया है। डू यू नो, आज भी दिल्ली में यदि आप सर्वे करें तो हमारे जितने विश्वविद्यालय हैं वहाँ पर अच्छे अध्यापक और प्रोफेसर नॉर्थ ईस्ट से हैं, हमारे रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स पूर्वोत्तर से हैं। इस प्रकार का उनका कैलिबर है। अब धीरे धीरे ये हमें समझ आने लगा कि ये हमारे ही बीच में से निकले हुए हमारा एसेट है। और कुछ एक विश्वविद्यालय ऐसे हैं जहाँ पर के पूर्वोत्तर के 8 प्रदेशों की यदि आप एवरेज लगा करके विद्यार्थियों की छात्रों की संख्या निकालें तो वो कई और प्रदेशों की संख्या की तुलना में ज़्यादा है। इस प्रकार का रुझान है उनमें शिक्षा का, तालीम का।
हाँ, यस, 221।
अमरनाथ यात्रा शुरू होने वाली है, आप जम्मू कश्मीर से आते हैं, पिछली बार दिक्कतें आई थी, इस बार क्या इंतजाम किए गए हैं ताकि पीसफुली अमरनाथ यात्रा हो जाए? सर
अब ये तो वैसे तो फ्रैंक साहब ने इसकी इजाज़त नहीं दी है, पर मुझे विश्वास है कि 29 तारीख को आरंभ होगी। प्रदेश सरकार जो भी यथाउचित व्यवस्था होगी करेगी और यात्रा शांतिपूर्वक रहेगी, सफल रहेगी।
सर मधुरेंद्र देसाई। सर मेरा सवाल एनएसजी को लेकर है। पिछले बार एनएसजी के क्लब में भारत शामिल नहीं हो पाया था, इस बार फिर बर्न में अगले महीने बैठक होने वाली है। अगर भारत एनएसजी में शामिल हो जाता है तो हमारे न्यूक्लियर प्रोग्राम को इससे कितना फ़ायदा मिलेगा और फिर इस बार अगर चाइना के अड़ंगा लगाने से शामिल नहीं होता है तो हमारे न्यूक्लियर प्रोग्राम को इससे कितना झटका मिलेगा?
मुझे लगता है कि ये थोड़े से संवेदनशील प्रश्न हैं जिनका थोड़ा सा सुरक्षा के साथ भी संबंध रहता है। इस पर हम बड़ी ज़्यादा सार्वजनिक चर्चा ना करें, परंतु निश्चय ही भारत का प्रयास रहेगा वो हर बढ़त करने का, उस हर दिशा में प्रगति करने का जिससे हमारे इस प्रोग्राम को बल मिले। डू यू वांट टू ऐड एनीथिंग? नो, यू कैन। आई थिंक वी बेटर नॉट एलैबोरेट ऑन दिस। But we have a case.
I am Professor Agarwal from the university. There is no doubt the graph of this government is growing very up, 80% plus. But there are, since you are dealing also with grievances of the people, pension, so they are very concerned. I won't specify, but there are a lot of grievances pending with your department, pension grievances, public grievances. So I'll give you in writing because there's not much time. So please be concerned and reply in. Thank you very much.
Sure.
200.
सर, मैं मनीष हूँ इंडिया टीवी से। चूँकि प्रधानमंत्री कार्यालय में आप राज्य मंत्री भी हैं, अभी भारतीय सेना ने ये बताया है कि हम लोगों ने पाकिस्तान को करारा जवाब दिया है। एक तरह का सेकंड सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक कहा जा रहा है कि नौसेना में पाकिस्तानी पोस्ट को हटा दिया गया। क्या मानते हैं कि जिस तरह की घटना पिछले दिनों पाकिस्तान ने किया था भारतीय सैनिक के साथ, तो उसका हमने जवाब दिया?
नहीं, देखिए, सबसे पहली बात तो ये कि इस प्रश्न का उत्तर देने का मेरे पास मैंडेट नहीं है, देना भी नहीं चाहिए, क्योंकि ये संवेदनशील विषय है। जब सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक हुई थी तो आपके साथ सूचना सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक के उपरांत साझी की गई थी, तो इन विषयों पर चर्चा पहले नहीं की जाती और फिर रक्षा मंत्रालय समय समय पर जितना उचित जानकारी साझा करना होता है करेगी। परंतु मोटे तौर पर क्योंकि मेरे संसदीय क्षेत्र का एक बड़ा भाग सीमा के साथ भी लगता है, वहाँ पर साक्षी हैं सीमावर्ती क्षेत्र में रहने वाले लोग। वो आज स्वयं कहते हैं कि गोलीबारी तो पहले भी होती थी, सीमा उल्लंघन पहले भी होता था, लेकिन जिस प्रकार की जवाबी कार्रवाई अब देखने को मिल रही है, ऐसी कई वर्षों से देखने को नहीं मिली।
Last sir, this is Gautam from Sentinel newspaper in Assam. You have talked about use of Aadhaar in Northeast. Can you please tell me because as far as Assam is concerned, enrollment of Aadhaar and its use is yet to start. Can you please tell us from when we can see use of Aadhaar in Assam?
No. At the outset, let me clarify, because this is a sensitive issue and it will create a controversy tomorrow. Aadhaar is not mandatory.
Assam and Meghalaya exempted.
And Assam and Meghalaya are exempted for the time being. So please don't carry home this message, otherwise there will be another feud. We are not imposing Aadhaar, and we have consciously kept the two states, Mr. Muiva?
Yes, sir, exempted.
Assam and Meghalaya has been officially exempted. And in other places also, even in the rest of the states outside Northeast, Aadhaar is not mandatory. Somebody last time, I think at the end of 2 years, some misinterpretation happened and they said the pension would not be given without Aadhaar, which is not true. Aadhaar is one of the options available to you for your convenience, but we cannot deny you your fundamental rights. No. Yes, and moreover, when you seek to have some benefits also. But as far as the pension, I'm talking of the pensions and the other part, which got misinterpreted last time.
Okay. We will conclude the press conference, and I thank the Honourable Minister for his time and presence, and all the other dignitaries on the dais. And friends, thank you for being here. Please join us for tea on the 4th floor.